Good morning. I hope you're doing great, my friends. Today, we have a very interesting essay 102 Ways to Not Let Irrational Thoughts Ruin Your Life. Irrational يعني الغير غير العقلانية أو غير المنطقية لأن ألف لام لا تدخل على غير. Um, it's going to be a mix of English and Arabic. راح تكون ميكس بين عربي وإنجليزي. ما راح نغطي على كلها، راح نعطيكم intro. راح نحاول يكون الفيديو short, but this is a podcast, so if you're one of the faint-hearted kind of people, please skip it to shorter stories that are accessible on my channel. راح يكون التركيز بالبودكاست مثل ما احنا متعودين على الجزء الخاص بالمفردات، اللفظ اللي هو pronunciation. لا تنسى تشوف المفردات اللي وفرت لك إياها 2000 كلمة الأهم في اللغة الإنجليزية. إضافة إلى هذه القراءة راح تكون يعني مصدر زاخر بالمفردات إلك حتى تتعلم لفظها واستخدامها بالوسط أو السياق الاجتماعي اللي هو social context. So إذا تلاحظ أنه بالبودكاست القديم إحنا نركز على اللفظ نكرره أكثر من مرة، فهي استماع وبنفس الوقت تعلم مفردات. لكن أنا أشوف أنه الشخص إذا ما يعاني ويا المفردة ويتعارك وياها ويرد يسمعها ويعيدها ويسمعها بالشغل يسمعها بالبيت، يظل في معترك مع هذه الكلمة وراح ترسخ في باله. I do believe what challenges you changes you. What challenges your brain, what challenges your mind, what challenges your memory changes your memory positively. So remember that I'm an advocate of the fact that if through the process of struggle with a word, with a book, with a person, this will manifest into something positive, whether in your personality or in your behavior or in your thinking and in your treatment of other people. Maybe you will learn a lesson the hard way, and you will learn not to repeat what that person has taught you, because you perceive of him as someone who is not a true representation of the real human being. So he's the divergence. But going back to the point, when we do this kind of discussion, my ultimate goal is to improve your listening. And it's not the essay, it's the interaction that I maintain with you. You're listening to me, sharing, throwing on the table my experiences with reading this essay, or the life observation or the pronunciation. All together in this crucible, you will come to the ultimate realization that if you max up your pronunciation and your listening, you will become a better speaker of English. And in order to do so, you have to enroll yourself in this extensive amount of listening. People waste their time on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and scrolling through disconnected kind of content. But ultimately, this disconnection is not going to lead you to become where you want to be in the future, which is the essence of this essay when we talk about the older version of you that we will see. I shared this essay on a Telegram group. And I think of how we can achieve our targets is like a car. Even it's a broken car that makes a lot of noise when you turn it on, but it takes you from A to B. And if this car, I'll use this mouse as you know, a representation of that car. Not sure if you can see it, but if you use this car as a vehicle that takes you from point A to point B, even if the car is old, it will take you through the destination of where you want to be. And this is where I see the protocol and strategy to get to your objectives, even with a broken method. If you struggle with your own vehicle of learning language, you're still making a progress because all in all, it's one unison. It's in one unity. Even if it's broken, it has gaps. It has it needs some sort of maintenance to optimize it to become more conducive to the best learning machine. But scrolling on social media, wasting your time on multiple platforms is like buying a car. Well, not buying a car, but buying two pair of tires and then buying the engine from another manufacturer and buying the chassis and buying the exhaust and, you know, not being able to put all of them together, to piece all of them together to make the machine that takes you, like this broken car, from point A to point B. The point that I want to highlight here, underscore, and emphasize, even if your method of learning lacks the best ways and updates to how you should learn, even if you don't have the mentor, even if you don't know what you're doing, but you have your own way. With all the imperfections of this way, it is much better than just not relying on a source that, well, a vehicle or transportation machine that takes you from point A to point B and just scattering your effort and wasting your time on multiple platforms, hoping that with the combination of these short reels, you'll end up becoming a better learner of English and speaker. And I carry very bad news. This is not going to happen. 102 ways to not let your rational thoughts ruin your life. I'll try to minimize the cut in the video because I want to make it as organic as possible and as close to your heart and soul and spirit and self and your ego as possible. First sentence is out of the 102 that we are not going probably to cover all, but I will definitely give you this essay to have access to highlight the important words and quotes and wisdom in each one of the points mentioned here. But you will learn a lot of things. You will learn that your ideas sometimes are not equivalent to being factual. What you assume, what your assumptions are just mere opinions. And your opinions, being fooled by not thinking that they are just opinions, will make you think that they are facts. Realities are different from opinions. And your beliefs, your honesty is not equivalent to reality. There's your honesty and there's reality. And sadly speaking, reality and honesty are not the same. Learn to differentiate what's actually happening from what you are currently thinking about. For example, I'm thinking that this person is a bad person based on his behavior towards me. But that's just what I'm thinking about right now. And I honestly believe that. So when I say I honestly believe that, does that mean that that is the reality? No. Maybe he is acting that way because he misinterpreted something that I said, or it's just a reaction to something I said, or it is not my perspective of how he perceives people around him. There are so many reasons that might not be, qualifying what I believe honestly as that is the reality. So we should step back, and this is my recommendation. Step back and just assume 1% that you're wrong. Take it for granted that 99% that you're right. Let's do it that way. But assume that you're not 100% right. There might be a chance of 1% that you're wrong. And that's it. And it's going to let you step down and reconsider other perspectives and reconsider what other people think of you. What makes you who you are is based on sometimes the judgment of others and their perception of you. And based on your honest belief that what other people perceive of you will make you do things their own way, not your own organic way. Number 2, and probably let's highlight the word differentiate. And differentiate يعني نفرق بين actually happening and what you're currently thinking about. 2, let's go to number 2. Learn the difference between honesty and truth. Now, when we talk about honesty is pretty much الصدق, الأمانة في something, in any particular thing. Truth هي الحقيقة. وطبعا I'm pretty sure that the concept of truth is highly debatable among nations and cultures. So truth حقيقة. Honesty هي الإخلاص أو الصدق أو الأمانة. The way you honestly feel can be different from how you truthfully feel, because we always get tricked by our brain. Our brain is subject to so many external factors that influence even the food, believe it or not, that you eat, that you ingest يعني تتناوله, may affect the way you think. Like let's think of it from the perspective of the medicine that you take. Even the smallest tablet might change your reaction and your perception of the world. Think of the drugs and how they just ruin the perception of people towards the society and what they think of themselves and what they think of other people. So, truthfully, what you feel is not equivalent to honestly how you feel. Slow down, take what I said, analyze it, and then think about it and reflect it, mirror it on yourself. The former is usually temporary, which is what you honestly feel. And the latter, which is the truthful feeling, is deeper and consistent. Now, sometimes once we hear news or hear something, we just speed up to the point of honestly feeling or wanting to say something about it without taking it with a grain of salt, analyzing what's happening, searching for the sources that authenticate what we believe, making sure that we listen to multiple perspectives before jumping to the final decision and saying, well, this is what I honestly think. He's a right person. The latter is deeper and consistent. ثابت, consistent, مستمر, and deeper, أعمق, something that has to do with the approximation of reality and truthfulness. So what you honestly believe in is not equivalent, it's not equal to what reality is, because you're a subjective person. We always base our judgments and then the next step that we make on our experiences, our assumptions, or what other people dictate us to think or believe or do. And that is going to condition our brain and mindset and also social behavior. And to the point, even our beliefs will be subject to what people think of us and what people tell us. The self-validation is not only purely coming from our own experiences, but the influence of our surrounding, the context we live in. People in rural areas versus people in metropolitan areas. People who live with high level of education versus people who live with lower level of education. The analytical apparatus that both of them have are different. And sometimes, because they are affiliated with certain kind of people, there might be no chance for them for development or developing their analytical skills regarding this issue or that issue. Some studies have found that if you, uh, socialize with people with higher level of IQ or with people who pursue their master PhD studies, there is more than 15% improvement. There's also improvement in the level of your performance. So 15% better performance once you start socializing with people with better mindset, considering the fact that maybe you're a little bit inferior to the way they think, they plan. Maybe they're entrepreneurs, maybe they are people with high level of excellence in their work. 3, stop trying to navigate the path while the forest is dark. What does that mean? navigate هو أن تبحر أو تستكشف. Navigate. So it's navigate. The word is navigate. So let's highlight this word, navigate. 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 The path while the forest is dark. What you need is a plan. You will almost want to try to make changes to your life when you're consumed by emotions. خاضع أو تحت وطأة العاطفة. Emotions. The word is emotions. Do you want me to highlight it? Let's highlight it. But that's the worst time to do so. Do not make decisions. لا تعمل أو تقوم بأي اتخاذ لقرارات when you are upset. And this is what I was taught by my professor of writing. He told me this: never send an email when you're upset. Let yourself come back down to neutral first. And when we talk about neutral, اللي هو الحياد, neutral, and sometimes it's pronounced as neutral in British English, neutral or neutral. Now, neutrality means that you're not biased positively or negatively to the status, to the person that you're addressing. Very important. Fire can burn your house down, or it can cook your dinner each night and keep you warm in the winter. Your mind is the same way. Sometimes, if you try to contain fire, it will serve you positively. Or if you just unleash the monster of your language, maybe you'll ruin your career, you'll ruin your work and job and your family. So try to equate fire to the concept of either you use it for cooking food and making it warm during winter, provided that you have a fire extinguisher. Um, or it can burn you down. Depending on what you can do, try to, be neutral. Recognize هو الإقرار أو الاعتراف. So recognize that anxiety stems from shame. القلق مصدره هو الخجل أو الشعور بالخجل. لأن shame هو مو بالضرورة يكون معناها العار أو الشعور ربما الشعور بالذنب. So shame stems from معناها يصدر من أو منبعه أو أصله. It is the idea that who you are or what you're doing is not right, therefore eliciting a rush of energy designed to help you fix or change it. And this is what I notice commonly when people start learning to speak English. They know all the alphabet of conversation, but when it comes to conversation, they just stutter, hesitate, and become some sort of hesitant to express their thoughts and their emotions and their feelings and their words. The reason is more psychological than linguistic. Sometimes we are afraid of people's judgment, and we feel ashamed either because we might commit a mistake, which is not a mistake per se, but this is what our brain tricks us to think, or just reserving silence and not speaking and gaining the respect and the positive perception of others towards us, which is wrong because your language is your machine of communication and delivering your ideas to other people. You're suffering because there's nothing you can fix to make that urgent panicking feeling go away. And that, scientifically speaking, that the period or the waiting time between the speaker and the listener, if we think of the example or the model of language speaking, is 0.5 second to 1.5 seconds delay or waiting time of the listener before they decide to cut you in and respond back to you. What happens during this time is that if you're struggling to express your thoughts, you'll fall under some sort of psychological shamefulness barrier that will just deter you from moving on to the next phase, which is becoming more expressive. Once you overcome that, you'll become a better speaker, believe it or not. But that takes courage, that takes some time to recover from this shamefulness, trying multiple times, consecutively failing to get your point across, and then trying to think of yourself not as an interpreter or translator, but as a normal speaker of English. At that point, you'll realize that there are more than one way of saying things in your own way. You're suffering because there's nothing you can fix to make the urgent panicking. Panicking هو الشعور بالذعر, feeling. So panicking is a new word. Maybe you can add it. It's a mismanaging perception. It is a mismanaged perception of who and how you are. إدراك أو شعور غير مدار بطريقة صحيحة. Remedy your tunnel vision. Not remedy, not عالج your tunnel vision by writing your narrative on a piece of paper. Now think of it that way. I think I'll need to dilute this textuality to a less and more common and informal way by saying that you need to write what you think about before saying it or stating. Start with my name is, and then go on to list where you live, what work you do, what you've accomplished, who you spend your time with, what you're working on, and what you're proud of. I'll give you an example here, and I'll put myself in this sort of test by saying my name is Walid. I live in a small village in south of Baghdad. I work as a freelancer and also online teacher and interpreter. I have accomplished my master and PhD in linguistics, and I've traveled to multiple countries, and I spend most of my time with only 3 friends, and 4 to be exact. And what I am proud of is that when I'm sleeping, there are other people who are watching me on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram platforms, and they're learning. And they're not learning, but also teaching their children how to master English accurately and fluently. Think about it that way. I think that is going to give you the momentum and the horsepower, the language and feeling and motivation horsepower to move on and extract yourself, eradicate that kind of feeling of shamefulness, and extract you to a better place. Don't you think? Think about it. I want you to pause the video and pause for a second, meditate about who you want to be. What does your older version look like? Where you think of yourself in 10 years, in 15 years? How do you imagine your older self to be? Then build it backward. Realize that thoughts are illusions. الأفكار هي وهم, but powerful ones. Why? Because there's a quote in the movie of V for Vendetta. I think it's to the end of this scene. I don't want to spoil to the end of the movie. I don't want to spoil the movie for those who have not seen it. But prior to being shot, or actually post being shot, the attacker asked the person with the mask, "Why don't you die?" And I'm not quoting exactly what he said, but I still have it, and that scene is stuck in my mind for many years. He said, "Behind this mask is not flesh; it's an idea, and the idea, my friend, or ideas, and the ideas, my friend, are bulletproof. It's really hard to take out or eradicate an idea that you instill in other people's mind. If you tell it, it's really powerful. Really, really, really powerful, no matter what it is." And to put it in perspective, I'll give you this example. If you want to change someone's mindset or ideas about a person or a thing or a religion, think about how many people are there, to be exactly accurate. How many people should there be to change your mind about something? Maybe they will fail. Even if you bring everyone in the world, they will not change your mind, because your decision is solely based on your observation experience or what you've been told or taught or nurtured to be since your childhood. And the accumulation of all of that came to be your personality and who you are. That's why, if we link it back to the first statement that I said, think of yourself that there might be a chance that there's 1% out of 100% that you're wrong. Think about it that way. You'll be more tolerant to other people's opinions. Your thoughts are illusions, but powerful ones. Take inventory of all the things that you've thought and worried about that have turned out not to be real. Think about it. You have to list down over the past years how many things that you've assumed that they are real and powerful and terrific. Like I had the idea that I will never pass my master. And then you see me now, I'm holding a PhD in linguistics. Because I built a sort of like firm belief that what I have thought might be accurate. Well, actually, I was firm believer that what I was thinking was accurate. Think of all the time you wasted preparing to overcome that would never manifest on problem that were only in your head as illusions. Illusions. اللي هو وهم. Illusions. So think about it that way. I'll stop here because I have passed the 30 minutes threshold that I promised that I will not pass, but I passed because I always break my promises. If you find this interesting, if you find that this kind of podcast, the elongated one, is interesting to you and makes you more engaged with this kind of conversation and this thought-provoking podcast, funneling it down to the nuts and bolts of the words here, please share it and let me know, because I don't know behind the lens of the camera what you think and what you believe in what I said. If you get to this point of the video where you watch me say the end of the video and saying thank you to you for watching and being patient and dedicated to listen carefully to what I said without just skipping it to another short reel, tell me what you learned from this podcast, whether in terms of language or in terms of self-development. Thank you very much. And I look forward to completing this with you, inshallah, in the next podcasts. Have a wonderful day or evening. I love you all. مدرب لغة وليد خالد.